Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lee and I like to talk about anime, manga, Korean dramas, and fashion. So if you are into any of that, then stick around. Happy New Year! I have upgraded my YouTubing setup with this little microphone, mainly because I had it left over from some work stuff that I've been doing, but I thought it would be fun to use for this. Hopefully this sounds clear. Fingers crossed that it all works out well, but Happy New Year. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my top 10 mangas and manhwas from 2022. I have 5 manga that I really enjoyed as well as 5 manhwas that I really loved. So in no particular order, let's get into it. One more thing that I do want to add, however, is that I am only recommending mangas and manhwas, except for I think one that I am substantially into. I don't really like recommending things that I'm only a few chapters into. Maybe at some point I will do a what are the new manhwas I'm reading, as well as what are the new mangas I'm reading. So if you are interested in seeing that, let me know. So the first manga on my list is a very sweet high school romance manga, which is called Urulashi no Yoi no Tsuki, which I believe translates to Prince and Prince. I might be wrong, but it is very cute. I love this art style. I really love both of the female and the male characters' designs. I also really like that she is more of a tomboy in the sense she doesn't have the classic characteristics of a female lead. She's not super girly. Her hair is short, which as someone with short hair currently, I do really like. And I really like how he fell harder for her first. I really like their dynamics and their relationship and how she doesn't treat him like a prince like everybody else does, but also how people call her prince. I think that's really, really cute. And I like how even the girls like her. Like she does things and the girls are like, "Oh my god, you're so like charming and cool." Like I really like that about her. I feel like we're at a point with it where we're just starting to see the developments of their relationship, which means that I think there will be drama on the horizon, which I'm excited to see how that works and see how they communicate as a couple and how their relationship develops. I really like him as a male character and as a male lead. I feel like he is very open to talking about relationships and things like that, whereas this is her like first relationship and she's more of the newbie in all this. So I'm really curious to see where the author takes this. The second manga that I want to recommend, I actually have all the physicals of, and it is A Sign of Affection. I love this manga so much. I love the art style yet again. You will see this as a common theme for me, that if I don't like the art style, I probably won't keep up with it. And I do have I'd say a genre or taste or like a specific style of art that I do really enjoy and stick to. And I'm not sorry for it. Also really like A Sign of Affection because I love the fact that the main female lead, Yuki, is deaf. She has been deaf her entire life. She uses sign language. She can read lips and also communicates with her friends and the other characters by writing or text message. And I adore the main male lead. Itsuomi has my heart. His little sun tattoo I think is so hot. And I love the fact that he is a lover of learning languages, and when he finds out that she is using sign language to communicate, he learns it for her. Are you kidding me? I want a guy to learn an entirely new language to communicate with me. That's so romantic and sweet. And you can tell, genuinely cares about her in so many ways, and that I don't want to call it love because I feel like they're in the early stages of this relationship for themselves, but I feel like it's love. He really genuinely cares about her and he wants to see her at her best and wants to help her grow. She's been very sheltered and protected her entire life. Her parents are, concerned, and by Japanese cultural standards with these sorts of things, I understand that. So to see him really care about helping her grow as an individual and support her in the things that she's trying to do, like getting her first part-time job, being in university by herself, and making new friends. I really, really like it. I'm really excited to see where this goes. They're at a point in their relationship that's a bigger step, and I'm so excited. I love reading it. It makes me smile every time I read it. The next manga that I want to talk about is one that I have talked about before, which is Nina the Starry Bride. I absolutely adore this manga. It is so beautifully drawn, and even though I know it's not gonna have an update, I do check for updates like every week because I'm hooked and I need more and I'm obsessed. I really, really love Nina. I think she's a really strong female character, which I was a little worried about when I started this, not gonna lie, because she doesn't look like a very strong character. She looks very innocent. She acts very innocent at times, but also she is incredibly kind and compassionate and cares about others. And so because of that, you can really see how she will be a very good leader. My only problem with this manga, and it's a personal one, is I love both of the male leads and I haven't been able to figure out who she's going to end up with. And I hate that because I kind of wanted to end up in like a poly ship thing, and I don't think that's going to happen. But I love both male leads, and I'd be perfectly happy taking either male lead that she doesn't want because I like them both. I think that both of their character designs are really interesting, and I also really love the stories and backgrounds for both characters, which I don't want to talk about too much because I feel like that's a little bit of spoilers, but basically Nina takes on the role as princess and is married off to their enemy, don't quote me on that, but enemy nation, to a man who is very viewed as being very dark and being very evil. So yeah, I love this. Can't wait to see more of it, and I need to start collecting the physicals. The next manga on my list is The King's Beast, which is from the world of Reime no Arcana, which is a different manga by the same author and artist. You do not have to read that one to read this series. They aren't necessarily connected, but they have the same similar kind of world fantasy setup where there are certain types of people who are called, I believe they're called Arcana, and they are half human, half animal kind of thing, ears, tail, and they have more stronger abilities, strength, hearing, sight, all of that. And so this follows the royal family and how each member of the royal family is sort of gifted or given one of these half human, half animal creatures as their attendant and bodyguard, and some treat them like a friend, some treat them more of like a slave, which is a whole discussion within this manga series. The art style is absolutely stunning. The last time I read this, and I think I'm behind, which I'm really happy to catch up on, left us on a cliffhanger, and I need to know more. I wish this came out every week. I love this like world building. The main character is amazing, very strong, a little stubborn, very powerful, and I really like the main prince that it follows out of all of the princes in the royal family. So highly recommend this one. I think it's really great. I started to read Reime no Arcana and I dropped it. I think this series is better personally. That's just my opinion. I do know a lot of people who really like Reime no Arcana, so check out both. You might like both. If you don't like Reime no Arcana, check this one out though. The final manga on my list is a manga that I started reading because it is being turned into an anime this season. Not this season, this year at some point, but it is called My Happy Marriage. The trailer for this was absolutely stunning and honestly is what got me hooked in, and it made me want to read it before it came out because I wanted to know more about it. It is historically set in Japan I'm not exactly sure what time period, but they do all wear kimonos and live in traditional style houses. But I do think it's during a time supposedly during British occupation, because the male lead wears a more Western style uniform. So I'll have to look into that. I might put on the screen here if I find that out. But I do really like this series. It has a fantasy aspect different than all of the others, in the sense that so far from what I can tell, it's more of a yokai and ghost sort of fantasy aspect with like demons and ghosts and things like that, not necessarily people having magical powers or being half animal, which is fine. I think the female lead is super, super sweet. I wouldn't say she's like a super strong female lead right now. I'm hoping she will get stronger later on, but based on her circumstances and her family, I understand why she is the way she is. She is in the classic Cinderella stepmother, evil stepsister scenario where her father remarried, her mother died, and her stepmother and sister have stolen all of her clothes, all of her mother's kimonos, and they basically make her live as if she is a maid in her own house, despite being from a very wealthy family. She is then offered up as a potential marriage partner to a family that is very well known, very well off, but the son, has lost both his parents, and he gets to make the decision on who he marries. And he's very picky. He has not found someone until her. And it's very sweet to see how he stands up for her and protects her from her family. And also just how she's slowly starting to come out of her little bubbly cocoon and shell after meeting him and being in this safe space. So I feel like I'm finally at the point in this manga where I'm seeing the meat of it, but I wanted to recommend it in case anyone wanted to read it before the anime comes out, and even though it's early on, I do really like it. Moving on to manhwas. This was a little bit harder for me to decide because I feel like there are a lot of manhwas I'm reading right now that I'm not super invested in, but that I read weekly or catch up on every so often. So I'm gonna share 5 that I'm reading right now that I like and I'd recommend, but I'm not sure where they're going. First one being Call Me the Devil. Call Me the Devil so far is an interesting concept to me because all of the male characters so far in it are descendants of devils and have some sort of abilities that they can use to feed off of and control humans with. They also drink blood, kind of like vampires, but more from like juice packs and things like that. Except for one, our male lead does not like blood and actually has a fear of it until he meets our female lead, who is somehow resistant to all of the devil's abilities and helps him get over his fear of blood. So, how do they get connected? She comes in wanting to have her boobs done. She wants a boob job. For whatever reason, he doesn't really care. He just needs her help. So he hires her as an assistant who sort of just sits in his office, and then he will stare into her eyes until he suddenly develops no more fear of blood and can go perform his surgeries. I don't fully understand how that works, but it's interesting. I really like seeing how their relationship is starting to develop and how she somehow is very connected to a lot of other devils without actually knowing it and knowing about any of the male leads. I'm curious to see where this is going because we're finally starting to see how she's connected and see if she's going to learn if they're devils. So also the male lead is finally starting to realize he might be a little bit jealous and want her to be paying attention to him and only him. So I'm curious to see where it goes. So this is the first BL that I am recommending, and it is also the shortest number of chapters out of anything that I have recommended so far, and it is the most ongoing, most recent release. There we go, words. But it is called Smyrna and Capri. I hope I am not pronouncing that wrong. I will put the name with the pictures of it here. It is an ABOBL, so it is an alpha, beta, omega world, following a king who's an alpha who, when it's time to produce an heir, takes medication to basically convince his body that he is an omega to then mate with an alpha who will help him produce an heir. So on the night that he is supposed to do this, somehow, instead of attracting the person that they have picked out for him as his Capri and person to mate with, the prisoner from his enemy nation, who I believe is a general or maybe royalty, I can't remember, and they don't really talk about his backstory too much yet, but he ends up sleeping with him instead and gets him pregnant. And so it's all about their relationship and the fact that they're dealing with the fact that they're enemies, but they're sharing the birth of this child together. And I think they're both gorgeous. The art style is gorgeous, and I really like this kind of twist on the alpha, beta, omega world, and I'm really curious to see where it goes. This romance manhwa I was reading very actively weekly for a very long time, and then it got to the point where I needed more than one chapter a week, so I gave it a break, and honestly, I am very far behind on it, so I do need to get back to it. But it is called A Symbiotic Relationship Between a Rabbit and a Black Panther. Okay, now that we've gotten the name out of the way, don't be discouraged by how long the name is. I think it's a very interesting sort of historical fantasy manhwa about people who are connected to animal clans. So, for example, there's the Black Panther clan, the Rabbit clan, the Lion, all of that, and the world is more so divided in between herbivores and meat eaters to protect herbivores, obviously. And it follows the main female lead, Bibi, who comes from the Rabbit clan, and for some reason she cannot change from her rabbit form into her human form despite coming of age. She doesn't produce pheromones the same way that the other animals do, and her family, being of a powerful position, ends up deciding to put her in a basket and set her down in the Black Panther territory without worrying if she will die. And I hate that so much. So that's how you start off the manhwa. It then follows I don't know how to say his name, I'm so sorry, who is the heir and sort of leader of the Black Panthers, and it follows him finding her, saving her, bringing her back to where he lives, and taking her in. Now, spoilers for farther along into it. I've seen people who bring up the fact that he only has interest in her after seeing her human form, and I think that's not true. He does have an interest in her, but not necessarily a romantic one, because he's only seen her as a rabbit. But that doesn't change the fact that I think that he does care for her, both as a friend and also wanting to help her sort of figure out, why can't you change into a human? Why don't you have normal pheromones? Why are you only triggered by pheromones of extreme intensity? And why did your family throw you over into predatory territory? So I don't think that it's suddenly like, oh my god, the rabbit turned into a hot girl and now I'm interested. I think it's now, oh, there is a possibility that I could have a romantic relationship with you, and I've been holding back until now because I didn't think you could turn into anything other than a rabbit. So I'm very curious to see where this goes. It's starting to get to the point where they're trying to figure out why she can't turn into a human, and why when she does is only triggered by really intense pheromones. So highly recommend this. It's very far along, so I think there's about 90 chapters to read, so that's nice. The last BL that I want to recommend in my top 10 is one that I read last year in January, and it hasn't updated since on at least the site that I read on. So if it has updated somewhere else, please let me know and I will hunt it down. But it is called Under the Green Light, and it is written by the same author and artist as Walking on Water, which is another BL set in New York City. This is amazing. It's got one season out, and then it was on a season break, and I thought it was only going to be a couple months that it was on a break, And I looked today and it has officially been a year, which makes me sad. It says that the last one was January 2022. We're now 2023 and I'm sad. But it is all about a mafia style BL where one male lead is in the mafia and the other is an artist and a sculptor who the mafia male lead takes in and sort of makes a deal with. I'll help you support your arts. We hook up. And I like it. I think the art style is really good. I love myself a good mafia inspired BL, so I am reading a couple more, which I will list down below that are mafia related, and also other BLs that I'm reading that I don't love, but I'm reading and I'm hoping to love more. I'm in like the beginning stages of. But yeah, I hope this comes back because I really liked where it was going. And yeah, I think that it's really good. My brain is shutting down. I'm so sorry. Okay, powering through because my brain is shutting down for some reason. On my last manhwa recommendation, which I've mentioned before, and it is Under the Oak Tree. Now, Under the Oak Tree, I've talked about before, so just very quickly, it is in arranged marriage between Maxie, who is a daughter of a very high-ranking family. However, because she has a stutter and is more weak, her father has decided you don't deserve to marry someone of high status, therefore you are going to marry Riften, this knight who somehow has an interest in you, and leave my house and leave me alone. She marries Riften, he disappears to go to war. She thinks, okay, I'm never going to see him again. War ends, he shows up, he's like, come home, we're moving in together now. You and I are husband and wife again. So she goes with him, and their relationship grows from there. This is where it's going to start to be a little bit of spoilers. I have a very specific type of historical manhwa and manga that I like. I don't like reincarnations. I'm not a big fan of world jumping, like someone from the future jumping into a book or jumping into a TV show or video game or anything like that. I like very traditional, we are in a historical world. So that's why I like Nina the Starry Bride. It's why I like The King's Beast. It's why I really like My Happy Marriage. All of those are set naturally in a historical time period. So that makes it harder to find manhwas like that. So when I found Under the Oak Tree and it fit that standard for myself, I was really excited, and the art is gorgeous. And I do really love the character design for both Riften and Maxie. However, I want Maxie to be stronger. I understand that her character is supposed to have a stutter and she is learning to come into herself to be more powerful. However, I feel like we're not making headway on that. I feel like we keep making a step forward and then she takes a step back. And I'd really like for her to like keep moving forward with that, and I hope that the author does do that. Now moving on to Riften. I think Riften is a gorgeous character. I love him. I love the fact that he was like a knight who fell in love with her and wanted to marry her and then went off to war, and now he's back. However, the man has the worst temper I've ever seen. His anger issues are terrible, and his miscommunication, awful. The number of miscommunications that have happened between the two of them in the short time that's happened in this manhwa drives me nuts, and it's why I've considered dropping it. It does have a light novel. I have considered reading the light novel in hopes that it's different, but I'm not sure. I also don't like the lack of communication. I find that even though Maxie has a hard time communicating and is nervous to communicate because of her stutter, I find that the lack of any form of communication between her and Riften is really frustrating, because you see when you're reading it the things that she's thinking and how she wants to say them to him, and then she doesn't. And I really just want her to like say some of these things. I do still recommend it though, because I do think the art is pretty, but just be prepared that that could be extremely frustrating. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have recommendations for me, please let me know, because I'm always on the hunt for new things to read. I probably will also link my blog post down below where I will list other things that I'm reading right now that didn't make this list but I still really like, or things that I'm reading right now that I'm not far enough along in to vote on, but I do recommend. So thank you for watching.